Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of First Person Mapper. This time we are taking a look at County, a Danger Zone map that was just hot off the presses here, made by Lizard and Jakuza, who's the second time he's shown up on here. He was previously on here for Anubis, so welcome back, gentlemen. And Cat Food, my co-host, of course, has actually brought us the opening question, so why don't you go ahead and toss that their way?
Yeah, thank you. Normally, in a Danger Zone map, most Danger Zone maps are made with a team of 6. And I'm really curious how you guys pull it off with just the two of you, because it's not like it's a smaller Danger Zone map or less detailed. I even think there's more variety than most Danger Zone maps. We're going to talk about it in a bit, but yeah, if you can just please tell me, how did you pull it off?
You want to take this one, Lizard?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure if too many people working on one map works the better way. You have a few other people sharing the one file, and then you need to organize the project working with 5, 6, or 10 people. Yeah. There are some issues with the approach like this for sure. So I don't think it necessarily means that the map will develop faster with bigger team.
No, okay, so more doesn't mean faster. More people working on it. There's also this extra part where you have to organize everything, and I think also with Frostbite, there was this one guy that did organization.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I can imagine if you're just with 2 guys, then you take all this away.
Yeah, with team of 2, it's super easy to communicate, share work as well. And I think,
what would you say is the biggest downside to it? Because I can clearly see the positive side of it. Just working, it's the same if you work alone, right? You're your own boss, and the more people are involved, there are also the more opinions you get.
Mm-hmm.
But what would you say is the downside? Why would you have would you say next time we want more designers on the team? Or
we certainly have our own, let's say, bandwidth that we can generate content. We both have our jobs, and we have limited time to work on the side projects.
Right.
So, from the content side of view, you probably generate the content a bit slower than a 10-man team, I guess.
Right. So you would say this was also one of my questions, but you would say if you have more custom content, so that's not made by Valve, any models by Valve, the more custom content you have, basically the more artists you want, right?
Yeah, definitely. Let's say we need 10 models and we have only one guy who makes the models, then everything that he was doing before needs to be stalled, because we have a request for a few models that I needed at the time. So like I said, the bigger team, the project management becomes a problem. But I guess with the right management, they can generate the content faster, obviously. But it all comes to communication and sharing your work and stuff between the people.
Yeah, because how much would you say is custom of this map? Because I can see these trees are custom, and of course the background with the mountains and everything.
I guess the entire terrain, rocks, roads, textures of the ground, grass sprites, trees. And then the smaller bits in each locations, they also have some custom content made by Michael.
Yeah, it's mostly the non-built areas. So all the foliage and stuff was stuff I wanted to do custom, just because I felt like it would. And Lizard agreed on this. We just wanted to give it a very different feel from what's the original Danger Zone map called?
Black Site?
Yeah.
Black Site, sorry. It slipped my mind for some reason. But yeah, that was important that we just had a different look for everything that was not built, and for the built areas as well. Lizard came up with all the ideas for those, so he was in full control of all those areas while I was working on the assets for the terrain.
Yeah,
and
oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
We really wanted to escape the black site kind of visual, so everything that screamed black site in our face had to be replaced. So the ground textures, rocks, trees, and some other assets.
Yeah, also I really like this with all the flowers, lots of color.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also
It's also like in the other official Danger map. It's also like it's basically like dust too, right? Sirocco.
Yeah.
It's also very very bland, and then so it's nice to have like and also like you have Frostbite, which is also like a really cool map, but it's very white, of course, because
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, one of the things that
like,
sets this map apart, I would say, visually, is the fact that you do have so many varied colors, and it doesn't.
Yep.
I guess you must have had to take care, or maybe this was just intuitive. So this could be a question for Jakuza, actually. Obviously, when you're designing, trying to use color, maybe not color theory, but just some sort of intuition of what looks good color-wise, you want to make sure that you're not becoming overbearing with it, where it's like too many clashing colors. So was there ever a point where you had to scale it back, or was it mostly just sort of like, oh no, this looks good together, it's kind of has that autumn feel to it, and you get these different colors at play in a way that's not intrusive? So what was the concepts behind, or the process behind getting the color theory taken care of in that respect?
Yeah, I'm not the person to ask about color theory, because my approach is totally chaotic, and I don't really know what I'm doing when it comes to color. But yeah, basically what I would do was I would open up my sprite sheet in Photoshop, tweak it, go back in game, test it with the correct lighting settings and everything, and then go back. And I just did that until I felt right about it. And the trees, same kind of deal, but we actually went back and forth on this, because I tried to get us to use like a couple different colors.
Okay.
And in the end, what we did instead was just Lizard was able to color them however he liked, using like something inside Hammer, basically, to just choose custom colors. So
Lizard basically chosen that it was going to be like autumn. With the orange trees and
Or no, I think we decided on like a midsummer feel.
Yeah, like a mid late summer. I would say.
It's not fall yet. Yeah, of course. There's also, of course, a lot of flowers and everything. Yeah, of course. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were also like before you guys joined the server. Is this in Northern California?
No. I was actually mainly referencing like Montana, actually.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Because a lot of people have guessed Far Cry 5 was a big inspiration, and that's definitely true.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
I was looking at a lot of like Yellowstone and stuff like that. Obviously, that's Wyoming, but you know what I mean.
No, it has the similar
area of the country. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I had like blindly guessed it was very vague guess, but I was thinking it was some sort of flyover state, right, where it is in the landlocked part. What was interesting to me as well, and this is something that Cafu brought up when we were walking around, is obviously most Danger Zone maps are intended to be made in islands, it seems. Like, it seems really challenging to make something that isn't an island. But crucially, even if it's technically still an island, you guys have a few areas, specifically the quarry, which maybe we can show now. That whole quarry area has like this... It stops you from actually seeing whether or not there is an island over there, and you guys have this really nice open area that looks very visually distinct from everything else in the map, but you get this feeling that it's actually part of it's connected to a greater landmass, even if you can't get there. Did you guys have difficulty making this kind of area work, or is this technically still an island? Can you pull back the curtain for us here a little bit?
Oh, God. Yeah, it was really painful, and I think we still regret not putting this on an island.
Okay.
Yeah.
The quarry was not a problem for us, but the entire 3D skybox that surrounds the map had to have this fake fog going on. Like, everything in this 3D skybox is have this thing in the material that says no fog, so
Right.
it doesn't apply to them. And there is like big displacement with the fake fog material in front, so it imitates the real fog. And this way we are able to have those cool mountains in 3D Skybox, but it really causes issues on the higher areas, like this, where you can see the real fog being applied to things that are inside the map.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like
then
the draw
the
distance
fake
stuff
yeah.
in some cases, as well as is kind of, it's not playing nicely basically with it. So is this just a limitation of Source, or is this actually something that maybe Valve can tweak on their end to make it possible? Is this something you guys have looked into or had any communication with them about?
I think that Source.
Okay.
I mean, we could have like an empty 3D skybox, and the map would work as any other Danger Zone maps, right? But we want to have like a cool landscape.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it works on the lower parts of the map. Like you don't see any dodgy things happening. But as you go higher, then
maybe some of the trees,
starting
right?
to see, you see that something's wrong going on. But that's something we're trying to fix right now with recent updates. So that's probably like, I don't know, a few weeks to go, and we might fix the issue.
And what if you just put the 3D skybox not in the model, not in 3D skybox, but in the regular map, and then just have it scaled up, like not because like in the skybox you scale everything down, like one of a 16th. How do you say this? It's like this number.
Yeah, I think it's 1/16 or 1/30.
Yeah, and if you don't do that, and then you just put the skybox in the normal map, like in the actual map and not in the 3D skybox.
Yeah, but the thing is, the fog will still be applied to the 3D skybox, right? So on the greater distance, you're gonna just see a blank blue color.
Yeah. So right, you need to display the skybox itself, right? That's the biggest issue, technically.
Yeah. I mean, it really is just all about basically the fact that Source can't deal with anything besides a flat horizon, and that's your perfect transition between normal and 3D skybox. But if you want to use some sort of clipping plane, then obviously, you're going to run into issues like this. It's impossible to avoid. So if we were to ditch the 3D skybox, and then we'd at least have a horizon, a horizon that actually appeared to be in sync with the actual fog in the map. But then you wouldn't be able to see any of the texture. It would simply be a flat color,
right?
Just like everything is at the end of the like fog plane. So it's really painful, as Lizard said. It's the most glaring issue with the map by far.
Yeah, we also had an interview with the guys from that did Frostbite, and they also said like we regretted that we didn't put it on an island. So
it seems to be a truism for Danger Zone right now. But it's also something that like. So Catherine and I were talking about this in the context of actual level design and in terms of how it affects gameplay before we started. But I think this also extends to art and thematics and stuff. Is you kind of do want to try something new. You want something to be very different, right? So the idea of being able to actually interact with things, or as Kaf was doing on stream right now, he's actually messing around with the gate controls of one of these garages. So you get the opportunity to interact with stuff like this, but also from a visual standpoint, right? You get the opportunity to show something that we haven't seen in Counter-Strike before, and that's almost something that's like intuitively something you want to do, right? But at the same time, and that's one of the main reasons why you guys were trying to get rid of the black site feel from the whole map. You were trying to give your own feel to it, because if it's unique to you, if it's unique to what you guys have, then all of a sudden it provides you with a very different instant visual feel. So assuming you guys can fix this problem with the visual skybox and all of that stuff, like you said, maybe in 2 weeks or so it'll be taken care of. Is there anything else from the map that you guys want to continue iterating on? Is there something you want to push in it further in a direction, or is it just about optimizing and fixing all the little nooks and crannies and like maybe there's some plants bleeding through or whatever? We've seen that in Sirocco before. So like, is it just about the little things after the skybox issue is fixed, or what's the path forward for this map?
Yeah, for me, it's like mostly optimization and clipping paths in few problematic areas. But overall, I think the map is good in the state as it is right now. I'm not sure, but I think we wanted to rework some of the trees.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So
the aspen trees were one thing I wanted to rework because they came in very late in the process and I didn't quite get them the way I wanted in time. So that's something I wanted to revisit. But overall, yeah, maybe additional foliage. I'm not really sure where I would like to go with it. But yeah, for me, I'm very attached to like the outdoor exterior areas of the map. So if I were to come back and start working on it again, that's definitely where I would start.
Okay, so it's more about like pushing this forward and making it even more definitively your guys' work, essentially, is like finding something else to remain emblematic. Because I think already a lot of the outdoor terrain areas are definitely some of the map's strongest suits. Probably some people will maybe maybe you guys have a different opinion on this, but from the outside and just having looked at it a little while earlier in the week and then also today, I would say the quarry definitely feels to me like the biggest like calling card that the map has. But you also have some really neat areas with like the haunted house. There's a church. There's a couple of other areas that even if some of them have shown up in other maps, like there's a church in Frostbite, for example, it still feels like you guys have managed to take it and then add another layer on top of it that makes it feel uniquely related to County. So this is a map where I feel like there's almost, when you get that idea from like a movie review or something, there's something for everyone here. That's almost like what this map has, where there's, even if you're somehow not compelled by the quarry, you might walk into this haunted house and be like, oh, that's really cool. Or you might walk into the church or start taking gunfights around it. And so we'll show off some of the more like bigger set piece areas a little bit later on. But is there something specific that encouraged you guys to design some of these bigger areas? Like maybe we can go specifically to the quarry right now and talk about the design of that, because that's almost like Kavud, you said earlier you were jealous of the theme because it's so nice in this area, right? So like this is an area where I think it's really successful in setting it apart from anything we've had before. It feels uniquely Danger Zone because you get the bump mine exo jump stuff going on with these areas. You can already imagine all the platforming you can do, and then even then you haven't disallowed normal platforming. It's just made a little bit harder to get around if you don't have the exo jump. So it feels like what I'm setting the stage here for this question. It feels like there's a lot of thought put into this area, but how much of it was intuition and what was the guiding design principle behind the quarry?
Well, coming back a little bit, I think when you said about the location variety across the map, I think it all came to how important for me it was to have those distinguishable locations across the map. So I really wanted to have players be able to describe each location with just one short sentence.
Okay.
Like you can have a player that is fairly new to Danger Zone. He's gonna play with his friend for the first time, and his friend should be able to describe where he is or where the enemy is, or where the spawning location will be, with pretty short sentences. Like we didn't want to have players guessing what's this location is all about.
Yeah, also maybe don't want then not have like another quarry or another church.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like fairly unique even for the level itself. Like we didn't want to have two churches, we didn't want to have two quarries or sawmills. This was really important for us. And for the quarry, when it comes to movement, I think that's something that I took from my daily job when working in Techland and Dying Light, we always want to make sure the player's movement is pretty smooth and fluid. You don't have any hard blockers. So I wanted to integrate this into design of each location, like make sure there are no dead ends. You have some variety when approaching the locations, and as well navigating within the location itself should be pretty smooth and easy. So that was
I also think you said like you want to do like another collision pass, but I think so far, except for these stairs, I think they could use like another clipping pass. So
yeah. The problem with
I'm kidding, right?
But in some places you really have some really wacky collision going on.
All right, I haven't noticed anything. So
yeah, I did.
All right, okay.
The problem is you can't be really generous with clipping on Danger Zone because clip brushes also count to brush limits.
Oh, yeah, of course. Right. So there's a source limit at play there that you've got to keep in mind. Man.
So we really try to keep everything clean with collision models, and then maybe do some fixing with clipping pass.
Right. Maybe you could also like turn some brushes into models, invisible models.
Oh yeah, that was actually we did that a few times. I think for 1 month we did like weekly passes of optimization where we went along the locations and turned some details into bigger pieces.
Yeah,
props,
if you know
basically
that area is going to be like final, right? Because it's like difficult to move. The model if the collision is models, like it's difficult to move. If it's brushes, it's like easier. So also, what's this like? I talked about this with Pronogo, like about this before the stream, but is this a fragile rock or fragile stone?
That's for Jakuza, I think.
All right.
Explain this one, man.
I also saw it on the other side. There's one here as well.
Yeah, people were posting those as bugs. It was just a joke.
Yeah, all right. That's what I thought. Yeah.
I like that. There seems to be a bug with your texture. Are there other Easter eggs that are like this, or is stuff scattered around? What is the joke here? Just that it's a rock, so of course it's not fragile. Or okay. I was curious if there were more Easter eggs lying around the map that you might be able to tell us funny anecdotes about or anything like that.
Well, Lizard did all the other Easter eggs. I think.
Okay.
Did a lot.
Pass the torch to him then.
So we also have to ask him about like the haunted house with the blood on the wall, or well, we don't know what it is.
It's
like
unidentified substance on the wall of the haunted house. Yeah,
human liquids.
Yeah.
Probably.
We'll show that off.
All right. Also, the first time I walked in here, this fell down. This is like, does it scare me or no? Or what?
Yes.
I thought it came down, but.
Yeah, it's actually like a trigger here that will enable the collision.
Oh, okay.
You spoiled it for everyone.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to even see that one. That's interesting.
Yeah. I wasn't sure, so I was like, am I going to say something crazy if I'm going to be like, the house is falling apart?
Yeah, that's true.
That's just sourced at its limit.
Yeah, it's breaking.
Yeah, it's a visual representation in the game of the source engine. You walk into it and it falls apart. Okay, interesting. I really like this whole haunted house area, and I really like especially the jump that Lizard just made through these two connectors. Catfood said it reminded him of the jump in Iris in Middle, which is a diffuse map, but in this case, it's really cool because if you have, like, you can imagine, even if it's a niche scenario, right? Most people are just going to jump through and get it. But if you can imagine somebody's got a scout or somebody's got any sort of weapon trained on this area, and you calm the guy's coming through, he's running to the bell tower or whatever that is, and you just snipe him out of the air or whatever. That's a really interesting mechanic there. I think that like it's basically what you've done here, I think, is you've created a bunch of different sandboxes for the game mechanics of Danger Zone and of Counter-Strike to essentially find different ways to use them, right? Whereas you'll notice this maybe more with younger mappers, but some mappers, or Valve, I'll throw them under the bus too, some mappers have these areas of the map where you're only supposed to interact with it one way, basically. But in this case, I can see so many different ways where this can be leveraged just creatively by players. So I don't know if there's much you can say about that specific area, but this whole area in general with the multi-layers and the 3 floors you can walk up, I think this is a really nice like microcosm of how creative this map lets you be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I mean, most of it comes down to Danger Zone itself, the game mode. Like, you can have a lot of fun when designing each location, and you don't really need to, take care of things that you would normally do when designing, let's say, bomb defusal scenario map. Yeah, I treated this like almost like a sandbox. Like you have 360 approach for each location.
Yes.
You can't really predict from which direction the player will come, right? So the location needs to work like 360 around the location.
Yeah, but as well, like you have almost mini levels within mini layouts within one bigger layout. Because I'm now looking at the trailer park, and of course there's also paths, right? So I'm sure you guys also thought about like how the fights are going to be within the trailer park, and then maybe how it connects to the different area. But you don't have to take into account how the other area plays and how it will affect the trailer park. Yeah, but you still have to like to design the individual areas, of course.
Yeah, that was basically our design process, which I designed each location in separate file.
Right. Yep.
Right. Run around with the bots. There was no playtesting with real players. Like I said, Danger Zone is much more forgiving. So, in my opinion, there was no point of bringing few players to play a small area like this. So I just spawned bots in deathmatch game mode and run around.
It's also much harder, I imagine, to even set up a Danger Zone playtest, especially with the full map, because like this is one of those weird game modes where you've got to put certain console commands in before you even load the map, right? So
that's like black magic running Danger Zone.
Yeah, that's why I told Catfood. I told Catfood to handle this one. I wasn't going to try to start this one. That's why it's on his server. So yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, just even trying to walk around in it, right, can be something of a challenge if it's not like officially added, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. So like I said, each location was like a separate, smaller map for me to work on, and once the gray box was done, I immediately moved forward to arting it up. And once the locations were done, we then moved to the terrain part of the map, which we set those locations in place. And then we worked on the terrain itself to kind of tie everything up together.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, the connective pathways, right? So, like where I come from, most of my expertise is in RTS level design, which is obviously completely different from 3D FPS games. But in my example, what really resonated with me was when you said that an area has to work from a 360-degree angle of approach. You have to be able to justify the gameplay in pretty much every angle, like give players an opportunity to leverage a location without necessarily knowing exactly how they're going to approach it. That's exactly the approach that I find a lot of really good open RTS levels follow, the same kind of principle where units can kind of walk in any which way depending on the angle. And yeah, you limit the number of angles, or maybe there's some ramps or bridges or whatever. You kind of filter some of them through, but at the end of the day, the idea is that you could approach it from a bunch of different areas, and that can kind of determine how defensible an area it might be, or in this case, the FPS analogy would be like, can you hold an angle from this area or whatever? And in Danger Zone, you don't really want to encourage camping from what I know anyway. So it's actually better to have this very wide open area. So one of the ways that I would talk about the pathways specifically, I'm curious as to how you decided where, like a given mini map, the level, like its own map that you were working on, how did you decide where to actually put them? Was that just sort of did you have like a broader layout in mind, or was that more like sort of by feel, let's put this here, let's put this there? And my follow-up to that also would be, did you ever move something after putting it there? Did you put like the church somewhere and then have to move that somewhere else? Was that ever something? Because I imagine that would have been nightmarish to do in this editor.
Yeah, happily not.
Okay.
We didn't move any location, but our process looked like this. We started with basically a map drawn in paint, I think, where we drawn some basic, streets, roads, and stuff like this.
Yep.
We already had a list of locations that we wanted to make, so we put those locations on this map. So we kind of knew that, let's say this road's gonna go here, right? So if the trailer park is here, then it somehow needs to connect from this side. And the same goes for like police station or this neighborhood, right? You like the road itself is integrated into location. So
yeah, it actually like makes sense of where like how a normal town would look like.
mhm.
Yeah, I do like you
Right.
have the suburbia location where all
Yeah.
all of the houses are identical. Some people would say that's like, oh, you guys didn't want to make custom houses for everything, but that makes sense for this location. That's like
Yeah, but
exactly
it's
what it is.
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, you need to cut the costs of producing stuff
Yeah, sure.
in every way you can, basically. And yeah, the same goes for Salmi, for example. We had these train tracks going on, and
Yeah, this is a really cool area.
then it connects to the roads with this like, kind of wooden bridge here.
Mhm.
Yeah, it kind of organically came to life from this very simple 2D sketch of the layout.
And there's even like Occupy going on, like right outside the suburban area.
Yeah, you got a little campsite. I really
Like,
like
I
that
mean-
you can walk up that
Oh yeah,
that thing
yeah.
there, the little rock climbing hook is pretty. It's a cute way to have a ladder without it like breaking the thematic consistency, right?
Yeah, that was I guess me trying to fix those very high cliff walls.
Mhm.
Like on Blacksite or Sirocco, you don't really see places where you can go up.
Right.
Like maybe in few places, right? Where here the entire center of the map is elevated by this
Right.
cliffs around, right? So we wanted to have a way for the players to go up really quickly without
Yeah.
detouring.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Free and
especially with the danger zone bombs going off.
Right. Okay.
Like
Right.
you could be left basically cut off from the pathway to the higher areas. So yeah, the like a grappling hook was an idea we had to fight this.
Yeah, and also like the tents also they make sure you can see the
Mhm.
where the grappling hook is from afar.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. As soon as you
Basically,
see them, yeah, you kind of know it's like a read, an
It's like,
indication.
oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, because
it's like
everywhere where there's tents, there's like also the grappling hook. I think like here.
Yeah, exactly. Like a visual language. Wherever you
Yes,
see
yeah.
the two tents, you're sure there is gonna be a grappling hook there.
Also, like I think in The Shining, like it's called like the Overlook Hotel.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Like,
That's
is
another
there
one of
kind of-
my jokes.
Right. Yeah. Because it's also in the same area, right? Like as the Overlook Hotel.
It's it's based on a place in Colorado.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'm interested in knowing. There's actually a question in the chat that gets at the same kind of concept. Is like essentially when you're translating it from 2D to 3D, from that paint sketch to the actual map. Was there a specific area that was the most difficult to redesign that required the most attention after you got it initially in, or was it mostly just it worked out as soon as you plopped it in, or what was like the area of the map that you had to spend the most time battling?
That's a hard question, actually.
Maybe Yakuza knows an area where specifically the art needed a lot of passes. Was there anything like that you can recall?
I went through a lot of versions of the quarry rocks.
Okay.
I think I had to keep telling Lizard to stop using the old ones too, which is probably a problem that a lot of artists run into because he said, what's the problem with using everything that I've given you? I really wanted to have something consistent, so I got him to delete all the old ones eventually and replace them with the new ones. Yeah, I was pretty happy in the end with how those came out. Even though they are
satisfying,
extremely low poly. Yeah. When it was finally done with.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, gameplay wise, when it comes to location, I think everything came along pretty well at the end. I don't think there was like a big moving operation when some location didn't fit or.
Yeah, because you said like you made the first layout in Paint or Photoshop. I think you said Paint, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, did you also get it like in game or no? Like as a overlay? Because I remember that T-Rexer told me on the Frostbite stream that he made like a texture. I think he used Photoshop, but it doesn't matter, right? And he put it like as a texture, as an overlay for the map.
Mhm.
So you know exactly how big every building is going to be in game as well. If that makes sense.
Yeah. I think I made the texture of this painting.
Yeah.
Brought it to Hammer to see
Yeah.
like the space between location, but the size of each location was actually from the black site. I think I opened up the map and
Okay.
made a big brush for each location, so I
Right.
had like a size reference for
Right. Okay.
for each from black site, and then started from there. I had two biggest locations, which was the sawmill and the quarry, and size-wise they are almost the same as two biggest location from black site.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice
and-
way of using like maps that work well and then translate it into like your own design. Yeah.
Yeah, it was first approach to Danger Zone, and I had no idea how big the map itself is. You know, so this really helped me to get started, and then like I said, we did the terrain after everything was done.
Right.
So we had those instances of locations lying around in Hammer. Then I put the 2D painting over them and then move them around to kind of fit the initial sketch, but it was very loose. Like you can't really translate one to one the size of the sketch in Hammer.
Yeah, actually, I just recalled one area we did redesign because the locations themselves didn't undergo any major redesigns, but the terrain, for instance, around the haunted house
that's true. Yeah.
went through a couple iterations because originally we actually had the river just funneling out into the main lake or river, whatever it is. And I can't actually remember why that didn't work, but yeah, we went back and forth on like what the riverbank should be, because I felt that having like a really steep area like this wouldn't work. But I mean, it came together in the end. I had reservations basically throughout the whole process of making the river, but I think it came out all right.
Yeah, I guess with extra jump, you can probably make that jump anyway. But otherwise, you need to find a specific area that you can use to escape, so to speak.
Yeah, there's an outlet over here, for instance.
Yeah. Yeah, and also like if you don't have this everywhere around the map, if this is just like this specific to this area, it's also like almost like a pit, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you would have this like everywhere around the map, that would be maybe annoying. But now it almost just gives it like its own character, like that you can be stuck in this how would you call this, like dry river almost?
Yeah. So within the actual river itself, you have to watch out for it. Was there a version at any point that actually had you required to swim, or did you know immediately, like, no, you have to be able to walk in this? Like, I imagine it must have been like, no way can we make the player swim through this whole area?
No, I don't think so. Maybe by accident, but yeah, we don't want players to, especially in gameplay spaces like this, where they're exposed from everywhere, to have them swim.
I know the area you can swim in is obviously that green area in the quarry, the green water. Is there was that ever dealing damage to people? Because it almost looks like it should, but I guess the real hazard there is if you swim at all, you're much slower. So
yeah, I was also wondering because also like there's signs that say
don't swim. Yeah.
Don't swim. Yeah. But this would also be like not healthy for you in real life, I guess.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But it doesn't look. I think it looks. I was telling Pro No-Go before the stream. I really like. I'm kind of jealous of this contrast as well with the green lake and then the rock color and then also the crane as a highlight with the yellow. I think it looks really cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. When it comes to dealing damage, I think we decided not to. I mean, there would be no gameplay value if the lake dealt damage, right? It would be like a dead space for players, so they would have to run around the lake.
Yeah.
Just put an op crate there, man. Then there's risk reward.
Not a bad
yeah, right now they can. I don't know, swim across, but I'm not if it's really faster than running around.
Yeah, it might be roughly the same, but maybe it's good for avoiding an angle or something. But yeah, so that was something that came to my mind anyway when we were talking about water and swimming and stuff.
Yeah, sorry, it was more like a visual piece than a
Right.
gameplay thing to have.
Yeah, it makes a banging screenshot in the workshop page. People are like, "What? What's this?"
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I could see it being interesting though to have like a hazardous path that sometimes is faster.
Right. Yeah, because there's a risk reward that you're leveling up there.
Yeah.
Where you have to do like a trick jump. Otherwise you
Yeah,
fall in.
exactly.
I guess the other thing too is that I mean, I don't know if it actually would fit in this case, but you could almost have like a geyser of some sort that occasionally spews out something. But yeah, this is still really cool from a thematic perspective, and like Cafu said, the contrast of the areas helps you easily identify. Like it's almost like even within the sub levels themselves, you have a nice way to instantly know where in these sub levels you are. So where in the quarry you are. If this green thing is visible, then you're close to the edge, the southern edge, and then if you're by the crane, you're in the middle, and so on and so forth. So you get this like natural, like obviously you said earlier, Lizard, the visual language of the level is actually communicating to you where you are within the sub area itself. So you get to say like, oh, he's green, or oh, he's crane, or something, instead of needing to say, oh, he's the southern part of quarry. You know, it's a lot clunkier.
Second quarry on the right block. That's on top of the other block.
Yeah, and within location, if we have like a repeating elements, so for example those small, I don't know, buildings, right?
Right.
I wanted to make sure that there is a way to call them out, so you always have something like those numbers,
Right.
or when it comes to creek location, you have those house color, like each house has a different color, so
Right.
you know that may help
interesting,
when describing stuff around.
Right, so you could say he's blue house or something instead of just
Yeah.
white house, or you know.
Yeah, but you know, then the ping system came to
yes.
CSGO. Then
Oh, yeah.
it's, you know, like
it still is useful just as like a general design trend, because maybe you can't peek out to ping or something, right? Because you might expose yourself if you get shot at from an angle. So it still is, I would say, definitely worth it, and shows that attention to detail that I mean, the other thing too is that you guys were both involved in maps that previously were officially added to the game, so you almost have this I don't know if it's like a reputation necessarily, but there's the idea that like if people get their maps added to the game, there must be some element there that that Valve sees that meets a certain minimum bar of quality that gives you some aura of competence, we'll say. Like people would just expect that you guys kind of pay attention. So it's nice to see that in action almost, where from a visual language perspective, you guys already are aware of that and trying to leverage that where possible, like with the tents and the rock hooks and stuff like that. So I wanted to actually use this opportunity to shove off into a different angle, because somebody even earlier in the chat had asked about whether or not there was any more plans for diffuse maps. I imagine right now you guys are very busy, like with this specific project, but was there anything that prepared you guys for the workload? Because obviously this is a very different experience to designing a map. Lizard, you were with Chlorine, and obviously Jakuza was with Anubis. So did working with these maps that did eventually get added to CSGO, I'm sure that must have filled you with some element of confidence, but do you feel like it actually prepared you for a danger zone workload? Because that's like maybe 4 times, maybe more times as big as an actual diffuse map usually is.
Yeah, in some way for sure. Like you gain this crucial experience where working on maps like Chlorine or Abbey.
Right.
Especially you know what quality you're aiming with the project, right?
Sure.
When one of your maps gets added into the game, you know that this quality was enough, right?
Yes.
Right.
So having experience like this also helps, because there was like a certain quality level that we wanted to meet and say, okay, if we were to release the map right now, we would be happy to sign with our names.
Right. Okay.
And after this, we only been polishing stuff basically. But coming back to your question, yeah, it was really cool to have previous experience when from working on the smaller projects. But workload wise, I would say it's just, you spent more time on this project than you would spend on the Fusel map, right? So it doesn't differ that much. It's just the amount of work that needs to be done at the end.
And the amount of time that it will take to get all that work taken care of, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yakuza, I'm curious because you've obviously, since you've done so much art in the past and you've done a bit of level design yourself, of course, I'm curious as to your mindset on the quality of the art that you produce, because when Valve has a map, they come out, I mean, obviously Ancient is a map that, while you can criticize the layout and stuff, the visuals seem like almost the limit of what Source can provide. They're almost pushing the map, the engine itself to its limit in that sense, and maybe that's even why there's a lack of performance in some cases. But when you're trying to target like, oh, this map should be in the game, like I would love for this map to be in the game, there's almost a different kind of like expectation. You want to meet or exceed the bar of quality, visual quality that Valve's own assets achieve. And some people would say, from a modder's perspective or a custom content developer's perspective, like there's a school of thought out there that's basically, well, that developer, I mean, they're a AAA developer, they can do some crazy stuff. I'm just one guy, I can't possibly meet that bar. It seems like you've not only been able to meet it, but in some cases I would say your assets end up looking even better. Maybe it's just the way they're utilized, but maybe there's something to the specific way that you do it. How do you agree with that premise, or do you think, like, does that even factor into your mindset at all at this point? Are you just such a veteran that you can just walk in and be like, yeah, I know my stuff. I can strut my stuff here and get everything done. Like, what's the mindset about like trying to meet a bar of quality? Is it what Valve has set, or do you have your own that's completely different?
I don't know. A bar of quality? I don't think I could really say I have one. I think what I do for each asset is just try to get into a mindset where it's like I figure out what I want it to look like, and then I just keep working on it until I reach that bar. I know that's super vague, but I can't really put it another way. I'm not I definitely don't think I match Valve's quality in most cases, and in a lot of cases I'm actually shooting under that target, I think.
Sure.
Just especially on this project, because I was stretched so thin.
Yes.
On certain areas, I felt like there were a lot of things where I just had to say, okay, that's good enough. I'll come back to it if I need to, or if I have time.
Sure.
But for now, I'm just going to leave this be. I guess it just depends on like what grabs me the most, because I end up learning a lot for each asset that I work on, and sometimes I just get lucky and it comes out really well the first time, and sometimes I have to come back to it. I don't know what else to say on the subject, really.
Sure. So one of the things you touched on there was obviously you have your own, maybe sometimes you do shoot under that bar just because, like you said, you're stretched so thin in this case. And that's where the workload style question comes in, because in a perfect world, in an ideal world, the amount of work we have to do wouldn't affect the quality. We would just move on when we're done. But, especially creative people, at least in my experience, I'll speak from my own perspective, and you can tell me how much it aligns with yours. I might be very motivated to finish a specific project and to finish a specific thing, like say just one element of a project. Like in your case, it might be the trees or it might be some other element. But if it takes so long for me to finish that, I'm going to get not necessarily bored, but just an element of me is going to be like, but what about this other thing I want to do? Like, this is so cool. I want to do this. Let me go explore that. And I can't, it's very difficult for me personally to quiet that part and just say, no, we're disciplined. We're going to be focusing on this. We are robotic in our nature and our approach. We will finish this one task before moving on to the next. It feels like it's almost always a challenge to do that. And in some ways, a danger zone map where there's so many things to do might even be a saving grace, because you could literally pivot. If something's not working out and you want to come back to it later, or you just don't feel like finishing it right now, there's like 100 other things you can do. So in some ways that's intimidating. In other ways, it might even be a blessing in disguise, because there's literally anything you can do. So what was the workflow like for the map itself? Were you constantly pivoting, or was it easier for you because maybe the bar of quality was maybe lower for this kind of project in some cases? Was it maybe easy for you to just finish something in one go and then move on? How did the process look like for your design in that respect?
I would say it was much more the latter, where I would just focus on one thing at a time mostly, and try to finish it at least to some certain state where I could say like, if this ends up in the final project, I'm okay with that.
Sure.
And then move on to the next thing, because we just had a really simple system. Basically, Lizard just created an Excel spreadsheet with all of the objects that we needed for each theme, and I tried to basically get one of those done every day that I was working on the project. So it was not a very unified workflow, and I there's a lot of things about it that I would try to improve if I were to come back or start working on a new Danger Zone map. But no, it was just very basically just marching along one step at a time. And I definitely know what you mean, because there is always this cloud hanging over you, just like there's so much more to do, and I can only do so much in one day. But yeah, I would say that not pivoting, not trying to do too many things at once definitely helped. Like the rocks, for instance, I just spent several days on the rocks because those were going to be super important. They were going to show up all over the map. So for the entire time I was working on the rocks, I wasn't thinking about anything else, and I think that kind of helped. It's like learning more about sculpting, what kind of substance painter approach should I use for this, and once they were done, I never touched them again, and that was kind of a relief. Just like, okay, the rocks are done.
Yeah, it's almost like in general, you finish something and you never have to look at that thing again. Moving on to the next in my giant list, my giant Excel spreadsheet. So
yeah, first two, of course, but that is the idea.
Right. Sometimes it doesn't work out that way.
I also had a question, but this is basically like the opposite of what you're talking about right now. Like,
sure.
Now that Anubis is out of the game, like it has been in for I don't even know for how long. Like,
it was a little more than a year.
That's crazy to think about. Wow.
But why did I remove it? Because I thought it was doing pretty well, right? I read only positive things about it.
Oh, well, we got an email. Basically, they just said it had the least player numbers. So,
really?
Yeah, they just based it on the stats and said
just not for like congratulations. It's the longest lasting community map in the I don't know something
since Cash probably. Yeah. No kind words, just the stats say bye.
Yeah. But, are you still thinking of working on it again, or like to change it, still changing it, or?
I think all three of us have decided to close the case on Anubis for now. Right. Maybe years down the line we could reopen it. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah. Sometimes, like you just told us that sometimes it's also good just like to put a stamp on it. It's done, and then focus on new things. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess Lizard, I have a similar kind of question. Oh, go ahead and finish up, Jakuza. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Sorry, I just wanted to say I think one of my problems is that I tend to do that too hastily. Okay. I'm the first one to say we're not working on this anymore.
Right.
Whereas other people want to come back.
Well, my follow-up on the same... Oh, go ahead, guys.
I think you have the same question as I do. Are you going to ask about Abby or no?
Yeah, I was about to say, because Abby just got an update. Yeah, Abby just was updated a couple weeks back, so I was curious as the motivation behind that. Maybe, Lizard, you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, I had to fix an old bug, I guess.
No greater motivation or bigger plan? No, like, maybe Valve was putting feelers out. My thought process, my 69 IQ play here was like, oh, yeah, Valve must be looking to re-add Abby because it was a pretty solid map. But, it's curious. Right before we're slated to get an update, Abby gets an update itself. Wonder what could be there. But there was no grand plan there or grand conspiracy?
No, sir. The plan was to, start some conversation within the group of people that always stalk the workshop pages. It was basically a joke, be just before the operation, and we updated the Abby on workshops.
So you were trolling people. You were trying to bait people in. That's funny.
But I did actually fix the bug that had to be fixed a long time ago, and I had no time and energy to fix that.
Yeah. I also hope you at least added the new chickens. People seem to like the new chickens.
Do you need to set them up manually?
I have no idea.
Hopefully they just replace the same code.
I think.
Just like a skin. Okay. Yeah. I thought there were like different kinds now.
Yeah, there are, but I think they just randomly select it or something. Hopefully, it's not some ridiculous thing where you have to manually, as a map maker, create, pop it in
True.
there. So
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
just
I guess
wanted
that
to
brings us to the Q&A section. I'll just briefly say before Yakuza goes, if you guys have any questions for these guys, drop them in the chat. We'll filter them through, and I'll ask them, or Cafu will ask them, or whatever. But what were you about to say, Yakuza?
Well, it's funny, the Abby thing to me, because it's so much harder to fix a bug when you've been not working on something like 6 months or something.
Yeah, I agree.
It takes sometimes like a whole day just to get yourself back into the project and have all the working files back and all that, just to fix one bug. It's
How do you get the motivation?
yeah, it's a bit of a shame.
Yeah.
Well, you see, I had my motivation to troll a few
There
people.
you go. There it
that,
is.
that was my motivation.
That's
Yeah.
perfect. It's almost like you must have had the idea a while ago, like, oh, for almost an April Fool's prank or something, I should do this, and then the time came, and you were like, oh, let's do it.
No, the map was on FaceTap for some time ago,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, people were, I guess, reporting it back then, and it kind of went above me, like it didn't catch it, and yeah, I felt really bad for them to had to deal with it.
Right.
So I thought it was a cool opportunity to, fix the bug and.
What was the bug?
Oh, there was like a really small, tiny gap on a bump site where the barn is. The door weren't aligned with the door frame, and you could actually boost on people's head and then,
many a
kill
Zeus kill
someone
probably.
with a sniper. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, at least it was
Sounds like an OP
presumably
spot.
easy to fix.
Yeah.
So our first question actually was asked a little while ago, but I think it's a good one to sort of encapsulate the work that you guys did here. And it's from Rold, who says, if you had to make the map with the knowledge and experience you got from this project, what would you have done differently? Would you even have tried a big project like this at all? So I guess you could also filter this up to plans to make another Danger Zone map, or is one enough? Like, what do you guys feel about the whole process, and what are some of the big lessons you learned about working on this together?
Never again, I guess.
There it is.
Yeah, the Danger Zone is.
You mean like working together, or?
No, sorry. No, I would love to work with Jakuza again. But yeah, the making map for Danger Zone itself is really painful, and dealing with all the limitation of source engine, brush limits, and the fog thing. Compile times are also a big problem. Like you basically need to have a whole night for map to compile.
Yeah, it was some multiple hours, or maybe it was even multiple days. I honestly don't remember, but the Frostbite guys had some ridiculous compile time. Like I couldn't believe that's what they had to do.
I think it was 13 hours.
Oh yeah, that's probably what it was. Yeah,
8 to 13 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, for county, I think it is somewhere around 8 or 9.
Imagine
it's not.
Imagine going to bed after putting the compile button and waking up and it's still not done. That is so painful.
Yeah, or you press the spacebar by accident and then it's on pause.
It's on pause, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had my CPU overheating, and I went to bed, and then the PC just shut down, and I was really curious on what happened. Yeah, but it was like 2 cases of CPU overheating, but other than that, it was okay, I guess. When it comes to project itself, what I would do differently this time, having each location in separate map file really helped when organizing stuff, but it led to really flat location. Like, there is some height variety across the location, but it doesn't integrate the terrain itself.
Right.
Yeah, you had to do all that manually afterwards if you wanted to.
Yeah. The ground for each location is basically flat with some smaller details, right? But I guess if I would have to redo the sawmill, I would somehow integrate the terrain a bit better than just a wall here. and it goes for every location, like quarry. Well, there's just like a small pit here, but
Yeah, excavation, right?
yeah, but everything seems really, really flat when it comes to terrain. So I would probably work on that if I had to start a new project.
Find a way to add more height variety within the actual sub-levels themselves.
Yes, exactly.
All right. What about you, Yakuza? Did you have any takeaways or lessons from this map you wanted to share? Anything you would have wanted to do differently?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Because I was the asset guy, I felt that I think the asset pipeline was probably the thing lacking the most on this project. Because I think what would have been best definitely would have been to have 2 stages for each prop, basically a blockout stage where a lizard could start working with it right away.
Right.
And then using basically that bounding box, come up with the final asset later. Because there were a lot of times where I piped in an asset pretty late on, and then we had to sort of go back and integrate that asset all over the map. Or like the terrain materials, for instance, we should have nailed that down really early on, because it would have saved us a lot of time and headaches if we had. So there were things like that. Yeah, just basically doing the quick and dirty first, and then coming back with the final stuff later.
This could also maybe help with the thing Lisa just explained, where you have like if you make one big terrain first and then cut it up in little pieces. So you already have like the height variation, and then you start cutting up the entire thing. Or this could maybe also work. So like then you also do that in steps.
Right, yeah. Having the whole development process almost filter through something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like there was this one big issue we had when we, I think, compiled the map for the first time when all of the locations were done.
Mm-hmm.
So we run into a bunch of problems like hitting brush limits,
Right.
texture limits, and then BSP compiler silently crushing out of nowhere.
Oh, those are the best, right?
Yeah, and the lesson here is to test more often, I guess.
Yeah,
especially
basically.
in danger zone. Yeah. Like you don't want to leave those things at the end, because
right.
I think when we playtested the map for the first time, it was crashing on warm up, and we were clueless on what's causing it. And it turns out the map was too big, and we were kind of like there is big.
You also don't know how much you have to delete before it works. Then I guess
it was like super weird stuff where with like you have a big trigger brush above the map which says that this is a gameplay area. Like everything that is spawned inside the danger zone map should be inside the volume of this brush, right? The map can be bigger, I guess, but the gameplay space and everything that spawns within the danger zone game mode needs to be in this volume. So we had like loot boxes spawning on the beach where the trigger ends somewhere, I guess here, and then it was crashing the map because the game didn't know what to do with stuff like this. And well, the fix was easy, was to remove the entities outside of the trigger. But if we had to like shrink the map in size, it would be really painful.
That would be
that's the last thing you want to do, like delete things you worked on for a long time.
Yeah, and especially like altering the terrain that is already painted and having everything up and running. It's really painful.
Yeah, one thing specifically on danger zone maps, or I guess this applies to all maps now, but if you want to use this new upgraded sprite system, you need to paint the sprite maps in an external program. And there is no way to actually find out what area that actually covers in your map.
Wow.
So it's just like you have to go back and forth.
Yeah.
If the gas, that's nice.
Can you preview this in Hammer, or do you have to compile to see it?
No, it's a texture. It's a texture that you create in like Photoshop or
Okay.
whatever, and turn into a VTF. And I think Yansel had a thread on Mapcore. It's definitely something to do with like the extent of all the displacements in the VMF.
Right.
But I could not figure it out. I was losing a lot of hair about on that one because you can imagine if it's almost right, but just not quite right, and in a couple places it's bleeding onto the road or whatever.
Sure.
It's very frustrating.
Yeah, it gets annoying fast.
Yeah.
We've got a question. Oh, before I move on to this one, Yakuza, I didn't get your answer as to whether or not you'd be down to do art for another Danger Zone map, because Lizard said never again. But what is your question, or is your answer the same, or what's your take?
I would also like maybe ask first who's asking, right? Maybe this is like a potential collab.
Oh, no. This wasn't asked by anybody. It was just one of those things.
Okay.
I had asked
Maybe,
Lizard if he would ever do it again. He said no. So I'm curious as to Yakuza's change.
Right.
If I had like, I don't know. Yeah, it's hard to say. I had so many ideas, or like I learned so much working on this map. I kind of wanted to try it again.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like I saw a lot of the Frostbite guys talking about their new map and how you can do everything modular with if you just use models for everything, you can avoid a lot of the pains of hitting like brush limits and stuff like that. And that's really intriguing to me because I really enjoy making modular kits and all that kind of stuff. But at the moment, well, I'll take like a year off from Danger Zone. Maybe 2, maybe 5.
Some smaller projects on the cards then for you. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Makes sense. All right. A question from Veek, who says to Lizard, if there was anything, he wonders if there's anything you learned working on this project or on CSGO in general that would have been useful, or I guess more as a general broad concept about level design and stuff. Was there something unique to CSGO that you learned compared to when you were working your job at Techland?
Oh man, multiplayer level design differs so much from single player that when I started my work at Techland, I was like a small baby learning basic stuff. You know,
Okay.
like I had multiplayer experience, but it doesn't always apply to single player stuff. But right now, as I'm working on open world game, it really translated nicely into this project since it's like a small open world, right? But then again, it's harder to translate something from CSGO to, let's say, Dying Light 2 because you know, Dying Light 2 is much more bigger open world than this one.
Yeah. And hopefully a less limited engine that you're working with shorter compile times.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And you know, the gameplay differs in every possible aspect, right?
Sure.
So it's really hard to pinpoint things that you could easily translate from this project to, let's say, Dying Light 2, for example.
It would probably be the broad strokes, like sort of the 360 degrees of approach kind of thing you were talking about, where you kind of have to design area. Like it's these broad tenets that you can be applied more specifically depending on the game state, we'll say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. But in this project especially, I brought more from Dying Light 2 to CSGO than the other way around, right?
Okay.
Because like Dying Light was my first open world project to work on, and I learned more there than here, basically. It helped a lot for sure to basically working on a game like Dying Light 2 and apply the experience and knowledge to this project for sure.
Okay, so it's more of the other way almost, like stuff that you learned in Techland applied really well here in this sense. Okay.
Yes.
Question from Ordaniku. I don't know if I said that name correctly, but his question is if you guys worked on this essentially on free time after work or something to that effect? Like, how is the balance between whatever you guys do normally and then obviously this stuff, which seems to be more of a, we'll say, passion project or of a hobby project in that sense? So how did that, this is for both of you guys, how did you guys balance the time in that respect?
You want to start?
Yeah, sure.
Because
Well, it was easy for me. I was unemployed last year,
There you go.
so I spent a lot of time on this project.
Was it kind of like full-time workload, or was that just like on a day-to-day basis, whatever you felt like? How did that work out?
For the first couple months, I was working on it full time, and then for the last couple months of the project, I was splitting my time between this project and another one.
Oh yeah, how long
but-
was the development cycle exactly? Was it just a couple? Was it like
I was
6
also
months?
gonna ask you.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Do you know?
it was, well, from the beginning to release, it was a year.
Okay.
But I would say we took like good 2 or 3 months breaks total.
Oh,
So I would say maybe 7 months of like, working on the map itself.
Okay.
Without any, longer breaks. Yeah, so at like time-wise, I would say it's comparable to.
Yeah, it's pretty fast for yes, yeah, pretty fast for Danger Zone map. That's way bigger.
Yeah, I think so, but I don't know. It's hard for me to judge. I'm really curious how Yakuza survived my.
I'm not bad between the two of us. Dude, I'm working at like 6 or something, and then work on the map. I don't know for how many hours, but I was amazed how much effort and how fast Lizard worked. It's like I didn't do basically any of the actual in-hammer work on this map. So if you can imagine someone with a full-time job knocking this thing out in 7 to 8 months, it's pretty incredible.
Not healthy at all. Please, please don't do that. Yeah.
That's also why you're not on camera right now, right?
Yeah, I look really terrible. I just finished this project and need to like half a year to recover.
Yeah, of course.
No, it wasn't really that bad, but sometimes I felt really bad for Yakuza to, him seeing new requests of models that I wanted to have.
Were there also like a lot of models that you didn't use in the end?
Actually,
you used everything.
Yeah, I think so, right?
Besides
maybe
early passes or whatever, like early drafts of something that would obviously.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I think I didn't work on anything that Lizard didn't request.
Oh, okay, sure.
Unless there's something I'm forgetting, but no, there were no real disappointments in that regard.
Cool, nice.
Yeah, that's always nice when all your work gets, because it could definitely be demotivating if you're like, I worked so hard on this. Why isn't it in? Put it somewhere. Make it an Easter egg or something. But yeah.
Where's my rock?
Yeah, where's my rock? So.
Yeah, I just wanted to say like Yakuza's work is incredible, especially the quarry assets. Like he worked so hard to get them right. Mm-hmm. Like I remember having 3 or 4 iteration of the set of those big stones.
Yeah,
they
that's
paid
right.
off in the end. I would say
Yeah,
it's definitely the most memorable area of the map.
Yeah, totally.
It's almost a shame, and also you guys already told us like why, but it's almost a shame that it's not like a bigger area.
Right. Yeah.
Because it looks so cool.
Yeah. I at some point I thought that the quarry and the sawmill areas could be expanded into fully fledged like DE map.
Yeah, I was just about to say you could probably make this being a bomb site and the sawmill being another almost. You could actually make a diffuse map out of this, just this theme alone.
Oh yeah, with some work probably, yeah.
I guess especially since it's modular with them being different levels, it might even make it easier. But yeah, it's an interesting thought experiment anyway.
I would definitely want to rework that. I don't think it holds up for a 5v5 map. But I think it would come out looking like a poor man's grind, honestly.
Oh, I guess because grind is now in the map, people are going to be more familiar with it, right? That's almost like, I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It's an aside anyway, but it's almost like if you find a map on the workshop that's got like no attention but has a really cool theme, and you're like, oh, I can still use this because nobody knows about it. I don't know if that's ever happened to you guys, but there must have been some point where you play a map and it's like, oh, this is really cool. How does nobody know about this? Even if you're not going to use the theme for yourself, it's all this is like discovery issues that could come up and play there.
I really hope that the guy that made the quarry map that this is based on is not watching right now. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
List him as a contributor.
Yeah.
So, there was a question earlier in the chat. There was somebody asking about whether or not the assets here were "quote unquote" open source, like if they would be usable in other projects. I don't know if that's something you guys are open to or not, but maybe this is a perfect time as any to answer that one.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I just haven't gotten around to packing them up, but
Okay.
I would.
If somebody tore them out themselves and organized them, you wouldn't be, as long as they gave credit, I assume you wouldn't be like mishappy about that necessarily.
No. I mean, I'm perfectly happy to give. I sometimes people just DM me and ask me for one or two of my assets, and I'm always happy to give it over. So it would probably save people some time if I just packed it all up.
Even that is that's almost like the bug fix for Abby, where you have to take a whole day just to get used to it again. Even that is probably has some challenges there to try to like get back into the headspace of, oh yeah, all these models are part of this or whatever. So, but yeah,
I think it's also really nice that you let other people use your assets. But Lizard, you also sent me this map, the Skeld.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like this, it's like this map that someone created with all assets from mappers, and they didn't give permission. So that I find that so weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always ask.
Guys. Yeah, just ask. Like, yeah, it's the same with me. Like Jakuza said, like it's the same, basically the same with me. You can use assets, but just ask, and of course give credit, right?
Yeah.
But I'm guessing that there's gonna be if you're gonna say yes, it's not gonna be me, by the way. But if you're gonna say yes, and I'm pretty sure there's gonna be like a quarry 5v5 map.
Sure, yeah.
Very soon on it.
You got to strike while the iron is hot if you want to make that one, because somebody else is going to do it soon, probably. Yeah. Just because the assets are readily available now makes it so much easier to, even if they end up arting it again, like doing another art pass, you could even use these as placeholder assets if you wanted to. Like, it's so much easier when you have something that represents the visual you're going for. It gives you a lot better of a look than a gray box will.
Yep. You already have like a nice scale as well, because this is sometimes. How to say this? Like overlooked? Not overlooked, but people sometimes forget also that the scale is really important in level design.
Yes, yeah.
Which makes it like believable. Also, of course, the quarry is very open. But if you go to the suburban town where there's just a street with these houses next to each other, if there was going to be like more garden in between the houses, it was going to look weird. For example.
Yeah.
So it would be really nice if you want to have like a suburban area in your map. Just like to already like Lizard already said, like you should like take the composition of other maps that really work. For example, this looks like an ordinary suburban area, just like you expected, right? Just enough area for the people to park the cars, and not the drive lane is not wide enough. So
there's an example of all of these assets being used in the appropriate scales, as you're
in
saying.
The right way. Yeah. And this is also with the quarry, like you just said.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the assets are like pre-batched together, because obviously it would be pretty intensive to put these together with modular kits. We didn't use
one big texture sheet. That's what you mean, or?
Yeah, like the trims, for example. Lizard made the trims first as brushes, and then I just exported that VMF into Blender and exported it back out as one model. So unfortunately, you couldn't use it for anything other than this specific layout, which is the same layout for all of them, of course.
Yeah, you would have to go find your original files for that sort of thing if you wanted to make it a modular kit. But so there's another question here from Quoting MC, who says, how did you communicate while working on the map? Did you spend a lot of time together in voice calls, or did you organize regular meetings? So what was the communication between the two of you guys like? Was one in Hammer and the other? Because time difference plays a role in this, I'm sure. You guys are 6 hours apart or maybe more?
Actually, we're in the same time zone, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. I actually assumed for some reason Lizard was over in Europe. So
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm in Europe.
oh, you're in
actually.
Europe. Okay.
Yeah.
Now it all makes sense. I
You're
thought
the only one not in
this
Europe,
whole
man.
time I thought you were on my side of the coast, dude. I didn't.
Yeah, I
had no
know.
idea. Okay,
That's
fair
the
enough.
assumption.
So the time zones didn't play a part, but you guys maybe had different schedules or whatever. So how often were you guys on like some sort of voice chat?
I think we spoke 3 times in total, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
actually, not that much.
Yeah, yeah, but it was every time we spoke, it was super cool, and I think we scheduled like a 5-minute call to summarize something up, and then
Right.
we end up talking for an hour or something.
Yes, that's the way it
That's
always
right.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, especially it was like middle of the lockdown, and it was super cool to have someone to speak to, other than your like work colleagues
Right.
that you talk on daily basis. But yeah, we use mainly Discord.
hmm
Like we had our own small server where we posted references, work in progress screenshots
Right.
as well, other stuff like spreadsheets and even some cool videos or music that we find,
Like a mood board
we-
almost. You're trying to
yeah,
assemble all
yeah,
those
exactly.
things.
Hmm.
Yeah. Nice. Well, there you
Yeah,
go.
I think we were also able to work mostly independently just because like I wasn't ever working in the VMF basically. So that made it quite
Right.
easy
Yeah.
for a lot of things. Where it's like if he needed the bunker door, for instance, that had to be specifically fit to the
Oh, okay. Yeah.
specific area. But for a lot of things, it wouldn't really matter. Like I could just open up the VMF and say like, okay, I know roughly how big this should be.
This I can see. You mentioned earlier Far Cry 5 as a reference, and this whole church area you're in right now, I can totally see because there's an area in the game where there's like a shootout or some cutscene or something. That's
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
We definitely needed to have a shelter.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think
Oh yeah,
that
we
was
haven't
one
even
of
talked
the-
about the underground. I just
Yeah,
remembered this.
that's a shelter.
Mhm.
Some people like to refer some other stuff to describe this location, but it's a fallout shelter.
Right. How did you guys
And
go
now we
about
have
the
the
design
signs.
of the underground areas? Because these are almost controversial within Danger Zone, and I guess there hasn't been a map that has not had them yet. But did you guys feel like was it a challenge to make everything like incorporated in the right ways, or was there any situation where you guys felt like maybe did you guys even agree with the idea that there was an argument against including them, or did you guys all have like oh, there's a solid idea if we connect this with the underground? Like, how did you leverage them for the overall health of the level?
I think we want to have like an underground area from the beginning, and I think from the start it was way bigger. It would connect from the cave
Oh, okay.
underneath the church all the way to quarry, I think,
Ah,
to
right.
the Sulphur
Yeah.
Lake.
It's gonna be
Yeah,
right next
here.
to the lake. That's right.
Yeah, but it was way too big.
There's a lot of
And
walking, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah, and like the height of the terrain didn't really help
Mm,
because it would have to fit in like
right.
this size, right? And you can see where the cave is
Yeah.
right there, and it would be really problematic to have something interesting and like something that makes sense, so it doesn't end up like a bunch of corridors and some really wacky stuff like, I don't know, underground construction site or something like this.
Is the
Right.
cave a gameplay space? Can you actually walk around in there, or?
This one, yeah,
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
sure. It's connecting the
Yeah, I really like this
lower part of
entrance.
the map and the upper part near the church, right?
So you almost have like a very localized interior, like underground area that's meant to allow for a vertical ascension, even though you're also walking forward a lot. It's mostly
Yeah.
almost used there specifically to get up without having to expose yourself outside.
Yeah, exactly. If you find someone up there near the church,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to go left
Right, yeah.
or right and then climb those grappling hooks. You can just go go here and then have a fight on this level here.
Right,
when
once you come out of
exit
the shelter, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good way to leverage that to solve another problem, like you were mentioning. If you don't have enough opportunities to climb up, then you end up with some issues that Blackside has, where you're constantly walking around almost like a labyrinth.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And I think at the end I realized how cool those cliffs are on the other side of the gameplay. I would say where you have those bump mines that can bump
yeah.
you up. I can say that I almost forgot about them when designing the terrain. So it was like a cool realization that there are bump mines and you can jump from here to there without an issue if you have them. So this was like a next level of opportunity for the players to use the equipment inside the danger zone game mode. So it's like a small happy accident that really
small Bob Ross.
Yeah.
It works out well, though, I think, because of the fact that you have ways, even if you don't have that equipment, to ascend if you're in specific areas, but you can circumnavigate that whole thing if you do have the bump mines themselves, which helps. So, yeah, pretty solid.
And it also adds a bit more value to them rather than, jumping around the map. You can actually use them to overcome an obstacle in your way, right?
Yeah. Right, yeah, they increase in value when there's something you can use them for specifically in terms of quickly repositioning, instead of just most people that at least when I'm using the bump mines, I'm usually trying to like land on people's heads or whatever. But there's a way to use them for the sake of improving your position in the level without just moving from point A to point B. It's like, oh, there's a strategy to why I'm doing that you get from
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, pretty cool stuff. Cafu, did you have any sort of final questions for these guys? Because I think we probably are about at the end.
Yeah, I think I've exhausted all my thoughts.
All right.
It's like I'm just still admiring the view. So,
yeah, there you go.
So many little places and little details.
All right. Well, it's the last call for chat questions, and while we wait for any of those final ones to roll in, if the chat has anything to say, I'll just ask if you guys want to talk a little bit about any of your upcoming projects and plans as far as they pertain to CS, if you guys are even still interested. I know you guys said you were still planning to update this specific map, but outside of County, are there other projects you guys are working on that you want to talk about, or keeping it close to the chest? Is there even anything left that you guys are working on within CS? What's the plan there?
Yeah,
I'm not sure how close to the chest we want to keep this.
I don't know. Well, we working on a small project which is a wingman map.
Okay.
That
cool.
Wingman game mode is actually something that is lacking on my workshop page as well as.
All right. Are you a collector?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, and I think it's a cool project to get back to, your normal CSGO level design.
Right.
Like a small wingman map that is not restricted by very competitive rules of the game, but still has to respect all of those, angles, timings, and stuff. So I thought like having a wingman map next would be a cool way to get back to CSGO level design.
More traditional.
After this, yes.
Do you worry about whiplash for coming from the biggest map possible to the one of the more smaller ones, or is that almost like the allure because you don't have to? It's like after a giant project, maybe it's just cathartic to go straight to a small scale one. Just like this will take way less time in theory.
I don't know. I'm actually quite enjoying working on it.
Okay.
Right now, the only issue I had was the scale. Like coming off from Danger Zone to, back to CSGO normal game modes, it was really challenging when it comes to scale. Like this map is huge, and wingman maps are way smaller, and it was.
You mean like in a layout wise that players it's unfair if a player has to like walk through a corridor for like 10 seconds?
Yeah.
Right.
This and also
Spacing.
like a scale of a space itself.
Yeah.
Like it was, I got used to seeing this map every day for almost a year.
Yeah.
And now enclosing myself in a much smaller space was really challenging, but I think I overcome this in some way.
What about
Kinda
you, Yakuza?
claustrophobic.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's definitely more enjoyable at the moment. Obviously, it always is with a new project.
Sure.
But I think what I really enjoy working on the most, besides foliage, is like architectural kits and modular stuff like that. And like a small map, I think just affords more opportunities, especially something that just doesn't contain so many different locations. So
Right. Yeah.
focusing more on that really high level consistency and stuff like that is fun. It's fun.
Do you guys already want to share what the theme is going to be? Like what the location is and everything? Or?
I don't know.
No.
Oh, no,
At the moment.
No, that's fine. Yeah, you can keep it a surprise.
Yeah, of course.
It'll be interesting to see.
Maybe soon.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's not going to be a quarry or a sawmill.
They can neither confirm nor deny.
You see, I didn't thought about using some of those sub themes from County.
Oh, interesting. So it'll be something completely different. Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely.
If you're gonna like use the sawmill as a theme, just learn from me. Like I made a map a couple years back. It's called Log, but they had like a lot of logs.
Mm-hmm.
The great.
So it became like a running gag. Like I said logs, but yeah, like again, like there were so many logs.
It could be anywhere on the map. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure you guys do a better job at coming up with the cause and everything.
There you go.
I don't know. No, that's definitely one thing that I don't always get right is differentiating parts of the map.
Well, it worked out really well in this map. I could say that much. So maybe you take some of those design concepts and apply them here. But either way, I'm definitely down to check it out when it comes out. I'm sure I'll have some way to signal boost it, maybe a video or whatever. But really appreciate you guys coming on for this interview and breaking down the development process of this map and all the things that you learned. If you guys have any final words or anybody you want to say thanks to or anything like that, feel free to take the stage now. And yeah, thanks again for popping on and giving us all this insight.
Sure. Thank you for having us. And I guess big shout out to Frostbite team. They really helped us, gluing this map to one piece.
Yeah.
When it comes to game mode itself. So
they only forgot to tell you guys that you should make it an island.
Sad.
Yeah. Next time. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having us. And to reiterate, the Frostbite guys did help us out. Some small things too that didn't involve Lizard, so that was much appreciated.
There you go. All right. Well, we will.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for the interview as well. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a good time, and we'll be back at some point with another one. Who knows which kind of map it'll be, but stay tuned for more. And of course, check out County. Link will be in the YouTube description if you're interested in running around it yourself. And maybe with any luck, we'll see it in the game pretty soon. So see you boys pretty soon.